Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another meeting of the Council on Aging, live from City Hall. Would you all please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Francine, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Caniglio, Gosson,
Present.
Horn,
Here.
Kam,
Here.
Kozlowski,
Here.
Shentes,
Here.
Searden,
Here.
and Silberberg, and Chair Norkin.
Here. Thank you, Francine. Are there any public comments? If not, before we bring on the speaker, I'd like to make a few remarks. This is the last broadcast of the present term, and I'd like to do a brief recap of our past broadcasts. Last October, the Commission used its resources to allow residents of Castle Hills Retirement Home to air their concern that impending rent increases, which could force many of them to look elsewhere for more affordable places to live. Residents were joined by members of the City Council, Mayor Claudia De La Pena, Mayor Pro Tem Dennis Gillette, Council Member Jackie Irwin, and County Supervisor Linda Parks, who all pledged they would render all help possible. Shortly thereafter, Council Member Andy Fox was able to meet with Castle Hill management and negotiate a revised schedule for lesser rent increases. The February broadcast featured a panel discussion on affordable housing. In April, the program was centered on transportation for seniors. Our final broadcast for this season, which you will soon see, will be about baby boomers as they enter into retirement and how it will impact all of us. The Council on Aging will be back on the air again on Wednesday, September 6th at the usual time. We sincerely hope you will again be a part of our viewing audience. And now I call upon Jim Searden to introduce our speaker of the day.
Thank you, Harry. Today's speaker is Michael Mullen. Michael is a professor at Pepperdine University, and it's his class called Service Leadership that generated the presentation we're going to see this afternoon. Now, Mike's background is pretty extensive. Mike's experience includes 32 years of management in human resources and executive development with Atlantic Richfield Company, ARCO, where he was the vice president of the human resources for ARCO products. He also served as executive vice president and co-owner of AMCO Broadcasting, a commercial radio broadcasting network with stations in New Jersey, Delaware, and Pennsylvania. He's been a member of the Pepperdine University Seaver College faculty since August of 1998, where he is currently an executive in residence in the Business Administration Division and professor of Human Resources Management and Service Leadership. He serves on the board of numerous organizations, including La Niños de Los Angeles, the Executive Development Network, USA 3000 Airlines, Patrons of Southern California, and iNet Ventures. He lives in Westlake Village with his wife, Carol, and they have 3 grown children. Please welcome Mike Mullen.
Thank you very much, Jim. It's an honor to be here today. It's an honor to be with anybody that's interested in the subject of baby boomers and how they're advancing through society. The information I'm going to be discussing with you today is an accumulation of information that's developed by a recent conference in Washington, D.C., the White House Conference on Aging, which was held in December, as well as some information that had been developed by the Harvard School of Public Policy, Dr. Ken Dickwald's research into the area of aging and the age wave, especially as it impacts work and retirees. And then a good part of the information was developed by 5 of my superior students in one of my classes at Pepperdine University. They had prepared some information for the Ventura County Area Agency on Aging. So the way we're going to break this up today is we talk a little bit about the baby boomers, giving you some demographic information. talking about how they're going to be impacted by retirement, then talk about volunteerism. Now, one of the things I've found out in the few short years I've been teaching is when you have a lot of information to give, you can put people to sleep. So I'd like to make this as interactive as possible. If I'm going through the presentation and there's some things you don't understand or you would like an explanation on, please interrupt me and we'll get into it, because I think it'll be much better if I can answer some of the questions you might have and put it in perspective of some of the issues that you might be dealing with on a regular basis. Again, my hat is off to you because you're one of the few agencies around that is taking a look at this issue of baby boomers. As we go through the presentation, we'll see they're a dynamic group, and I can count on about two hands the number of cities throughout the United States that are really putting this issue on one of the front burners and thinking about it. The issue is not hitting us immediately, so we have plenty of time to adjust. But you take a look at some of the numbers that we're going to be talking about in light of the activities that you're responsible for, and you'll begin to see that some planning needs to take place. And again, my hat is off to you for considering this particular issue. All right. One of the things that we've been struggling with, most of the people who have been studying this issue, is what do you call this group? Harvard School of Public Health and Parade Magazine had a contest recently to come up with a name to describe these 79 million Americans that are going to be turning age 60, beginning to turn 60 this year. The reason this is important is because when you think about boomers, they reject terms such as elderly and senior citizen. They don't see themselves as old. They like the term senior citizen when it gets them a discount into the movies or it gets them the 10% discount on Ross on Tuesdays. But beyond that, they don't want to be called senior citizens because they think themselves as being invincible. They don't consider themselves being old. Old to them is 85 years of age. That's what they consider to be old. That's what they consider to be a senior citizen, 85 years of age, which happens to be 2 years beyond their current life expectancy. Maybe they do know something we don't know. The information on the Government Conference on Aging, one of the conclusions they reached is that nobody really knows with certainty, exact certainty, what's going to happen as far as baby boomers. But we do know that baby boomers are going to transform policy, public policy, politics, retirement systems, health care, the labor force, banking, and the stock market. We also can anticipate how they're going to react to retirement because we have a wealth of information on how they've been behaving since they were born. We have more information. This one group has been studied more than any other cohort of the American population because they are so populous and so dramatic. Who are the baby boomers? Well, the baby boomers actually started in 1946. That's when they first started to be born. Some people attribute the huge increase that we had in births in 1946 to the end of the war and the fact that the soldiers were coming back from the war and trying to make up for lost time. Well, to a degree, that was the cause. The birth rates went from about 2 million, 2.5 million during the early part of the 1940s to 4.5 million babies born in 1946, 47, and thereafter. During the period 1946 to 1974, 79 million baby boomers were born. Why were they born? Well, part of it can be attributed to the returning veterans, but also another part could be attributed to the fact that the economy had been increasing, doing well. And that's one of the contributing factors towards high birth rates, a healthy economy. So you had these baby boomers being born into families where it was a single parent head of household, or excuse me, two parents in a household, but one parent working. You had a stay-at-home mom. The baby boomers, 79 million of them, put a tremendous burden on society, put a tremendous burden on some of the public services that needed to be offered. Think about it. What happened when all these babies were being born? They were the first to move into the new suburbs. Those of you who are from the East Coast might be aware of the Levittowns that existed in New York and Pennsylvania and parts of New Jersey. So these baby boomers, these children, were the first to get into new housing. It wasn't the greatest of housing, but it was new housing. They were the first to get the best of schools, the best of education, because all new schools had to be built for them. So they were getting new schools, new homes, and they were a pampered generation. 79 million of them. And when they moved into the workforce, they became a problem for many industries to deal with because they became the me generation or the expected generation. Everything had been given towards, everything had been provided for them. Take a look at what happened as far as the change in population growth over the years. It has been described, when you think about the baby boomers going through society, it's been described similarly as a pig going through a python. They are so huge, and they've changed each one of the age groups as they've moved forward. From 1950 to 1960, they represented 37%. It was a 37% increase in the population of those under age 14. In the 1960s and the 1970s, they represented 48% increase of those between 15 and 24 years of age. In 1970 and 1980, a 49% increase in that cohort. Now think what was happening during that period of time. Think back to the kind of advertising that was taking place. It was all geared towards this population. It was all geared towards this very rich, very well-off group of baby boomers, many of whom have been spoiled by their parents. Parents who said, I want to give my children things that they've never had. All the marketing was geared towards this group in the 1960s and the 1970s and the 1980s. Do you remember some of the ads for jeans back in the 1980s as the baby boomers started to age a little bit and start to get into middle age? The jeans were coming out with a skosh more room. Something to take care and address this baby boomer group. In the 1980s and the 1990s, they represented 47% increase in that particular group. Now we start to get into some of the interesting information. Take a look what's happening as they move into some of the senior years. 49% increase in the 1990s for the 45 to 54 age group. Look what they're pushing aside. They're pushing aside two groups that only had 15% and 12% increases. Now, take a look at the trailing generations. What we see is not a baby boom after the baby boomers are born, no echo boom as far as births are concerned, but fewer births, a declining population. This becomes important when we take a look at the economy. Year 2000 to 2010, the 55 to 64 group is growing by 46%. Now we take a look out the next 15 years. The groups that you're going to be concerned with. 73% increase in the group between age 55 and 64, and in the 65 and above, a 54% increase. Here's what's happening in in the year 2006. 8,000 baby boomers a day are turning age 60. In the coming decades, there's going to be a significant increase in the number of elder boomers. The population that you're going to be concerned with is growing at a dramatic rate. From 2010 to 2030, the 65 population is projected to spike by 75% to over 69 million people. Now, many of us don't think too far out, like for year 2030 to 2050, but somebody is going to have to deal with the issues that are dealing with them, because that group where it's going to grow about 14%, with the number of elderly totaling about 79 million Americans. You know, the interesting thing about this information is it does not contain some accurate information about the number of immigrants and how the immigrants are going to impact this growth. So I'm talking about the births that have occurred in this country and has no bearing on the future growth rates as far as immigration and what immigration has done to this country. The 85-plus population is the fastest growing segment of the older population. The most rapid increases in the number of persons 85 and above will take place in about 25 years, or 25 years. The 85-plus group will rise from a current 1.4% of the population to about 5% of the population. And what's going to happen, because people are living longer and with healthier lifestyles, we're going to see an increase in the age 100 and above population. All this leads to concerns about how these people are going to be handled, how they're going to be serviced, and so forth. We're beginning to see some development as far as investment by the private sector especially in areas of assisted living and nursing care. I continue to get calls from recruiters who are interested in me identifying some of my high potential students who may be interested in seeking a career in healthcare and assisted living, to run assisted living centers and to work for some of the major concerns that are dealing with the issue of assisted living. The oldest of the old. The downside of increasing elderly population is that there's going to be a larger percentage of people living in poverty. We'll talk a little bit about how the baby boomers are prepared for retirement, and the bottom line is they've not done a very good job in preparing for retirement as far as finances are concerned. They've not done a very good job as far as planning for retirement either. Most of you who have worked actively and then you've retired, and when you're working for a number of years, you cannot retire automatically or quickly. It's like a deep sea diver. When a deep sea diver goes down in the ocean, as he comes up, he has to pause for a while. He has to go through a period of decompression. Well, the same thing as far as retirement is concerned. You have to prepare yourself for retirement. The best advice I got when I was retiring, and most of it was facetious, was from a couple of friends of mine who said, well, Mike, when you retire, my best advice is never go to the bank and the post office on Tuesday. And I said, why is that? And they said, well, that way you won't have anything to do on Wednesday. Most baby boomers have not done any preparation at all. They have not done any financial preparation, most baby boomers. Women boomers. Now, that presents a particular problem. Women will be predominant among the elderly, especially among the oldest baby boomers. By the year 2050, it's projected that women 85 and above will outnumber men by about 4 million, accounting for about 60% of the elderly population. I have a friend of mine who's a little bit older than I am. He's a single man, and he hasn't been able to get a date for a long time. I told him, stick around for a while. If you can make it to 85, you're going to have a date when you turn 85 years of age. Most of the 85 and above will be widowed women. Minority elderly. This presents a particular problem as far as Ventura County is concerned, because we do have a large percentage of the population of Ventura County who are Hispanic and minority. It's about a third of the population, if I remember right, in Ventura County that is Hispanic. While the 65 and above white population is projected to increase by 95% between 1995 and the next 15 years, the minority increases are expected to be 154% for blacks, 417% increase for the people of Hispanic origin, and a 380% increase for people of other races. Wealth transfer. This is important because we're talking about how well prepared the baby boomers are for retirement. You know, the initial baby boomers, the early baby boomers, are not that well prepared for retirement. But one of the things they're going to benefit from is there's going to be a tremendous transfer of wealth to that generation. And it's estimated there's going to be about a $10 trillion transfer of wealth from the early baby boomers from their aging parents. A significant number of the less well-off boomers will be unaffected by wealth differentials, which means they're not going to get any sort of an inheritance, which is going to create a bigger gap between the well-off boomers and those not doing too well. Longevity estimates. Boomers will be living younger longer. They're very concerned about their health. They're physically fit. They spend a great deal of time and effort in health issues. So they're going to be living quite a while longer based on the fact that they are concerned about the issue. The other thing about baby boomers are they're internet savvy. They're technologically savvy. So it may change a number of how the service providers deal with providing information to the senior citizens. I saw an estimate that is only about 14% of households with somebody 55 and above had used the internet access or had internet access on a regular basis. Baby boomers are 64%. 64% of them have internet access on a regular basis. So they're technologically savvy. They're comfortable with the internet and with all sorts of technology. Economic growth. Now, here's a big problem. In order to sustain the economic growth, studies have indicated that there's the kind of economic growth we're going to need to sustain an elderly population is not going to be met. In 2011, when the first baby boomers turned 65, millions of jobs that need to be filled by workers will be unfulfilled. This is a chart that was developed by the Department of Labor. It's also supported by some studies that were done by Harvard University and by the University of Michigan. The white line is the labor available. We know that because these people have already been born. So this is the labor force, or the projected labor force of available workers out through for the next 15 years, the next 20 years. The darker line, or the orange line, represents the labor that's needed just based on current estimates by the Department of Commerce and the Department of Labor. These are jobs in the United States that need to be filled. So we have these jobs that need to be filled that are not going to be filled because we don't have an available workforce. Remember, one of the earlier statements I made, the baby boomers were not followed. That generation was not followed by another baby boom. There was no strong echo boom. There were little spurts of births, but no sustained growth. This presents a problem. This presents a problem for commerce in this country, but also when we think about revenues. When we think about how the government gets its money and how the government pays for some of the entitlement programs over and above Social Security. Retirement trends. Many questions arise about baby boomers and whether or not they're going to be working after they retire. As I mentioned before, the baby boomers have historically been low savers. The baby boomers look to the equity that they have in their house as savings. They're going to be relying on Social Security and questionable pension plans. Retirement, Social Security, and questionable pension plans are at risk as far as inflation is concerned. So we know when I say preparing for retirement includes some sort of a nest egg beyond Social Security and savings plans. Very few boomers have made any realistic plans to replace the income they lose when they retire. They feel invincible. Many of them are counting on the generation transfer from their parents. Some boomers will have more than one career. They'll start a new career for challenge and pleasure. And we'll take a look at some of the survey information of how they're going to react to retirement. Single women and minorities will not retire because they can't afford to retire, especially single women who have been the single parent heads of households. They can't retire. The reason is because retirement allowances are going to be based on the number of years you worked, the amount of money that you've invested, the amount of money that you've earned. Women have been paid 76% of men. So if their retirement allowance is going to be based on their income, they're going to have to wait a little bit longer. Many women had to leave the workforce to take care of children. So they missed those earning opportunities, but they also missed those opportunities to gain credit for either Social Security or for a retirement plan that's going to be based upon income and service. So there has to be some significant number of policy changes in order to address this particular issue if women are not going to work well into the retirement years. Are all boomers equal? No. All boomers are not equal. There's going to be a widening gap between the rich boomers and the poor boomers. The rich boomers that are going to become even richer through the inheritance, and those boomers that have done a very good job as far as preparing for retirement, making the kind of financial investments that are necessary. So unless some things that are done to correct the current trends, there's going to be a growing gap between the rich and poor as far as boomers are concerned. Federal Fiscal Policy, Federal Reserve Chairman Greenspan, before he retired, claimed that there's going to be a financial shockwave spawned by millions of retiring baby boomers, threatened to turn America's social democracy upside down. Why? Fewer workers labor under a heavier tax. a burden to finance the retirement programs for millions of elderly baby boomers. We've also taken a look just what's happened as far as the PBGs, the Pension Board Guarantee Corporation. Those of you who are on pensions, your pensions, if they're qualified pension plans, are protected much like your savings in a bank account by the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. For the retirement program, there's a similar group called the Pension Board Guarantee Corporation, which protects your retirement benefits should your employer or the person who was providing your retirement go bankrupt. The problem is that fund has been hit very hard by two issues. Number one, the declining economy, the return on investments has not been great over the last couple of years. They depend on growth by investing the money that they've set aside. The second thing is the number of companies that have gone bankrupt and the number of retirement plans that have been impacted that the Pension Board Guarantee Corporation had to come across. So if you were a retiree banking on getting a retirement allowance of, say, $4,000 or $5,000 a month, and you thought it was protected by the Pension Board Guarantee Corporation, well, it's going to be reduced significantly because the Pension Board Guarantee Corporation has been losing money. That's one of the next nightmares this country is going to be facing. So instead of getting $4,000 or $5,000 a month, you may be cut back to $2,000 or $2,500 or $3,000 a month if your company went bankrupt. Also, you have to take a look at, as far as federal fiscal policy is concerned, health care, Social Security, Medicare. Thinking about the 79 million people that are going to be drawing Medicare and medical insurance and Social Security in the coming years. The private pension plans and the private medical plans are going to be hit hard. They're going to want to transfer those services to somebody, and they're going to be only two people they can transfer, only two groups they can transfer to are the retirees or to the government. What about female baby boomers? Many of them, as I said, are below the poverty level, and they're going to have to work a number of years longer because the years that they spent taking care of our children. Who's going to care for them? Birth rates are declining. We know that the group that would be expected to take care of the older generation, the birth rates have been declining. Many of the people in this room, you took care of your parents. Well, many of the baby boomers did not have as many children. So there's not going to be the children to take care of many of the baby boomers. That burden is going to be shifted to communities and the government. From the year 2001 to the year 2030, federal revenues as a percentage of the gross domestic product will remain steady, while Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid share of the gross domestic product will just about double. Law enforcement and yes, Jim.
I was just going to ask: is this an American problem or is this a global?
It's a global problem. It's a global problem, and as we'll see in a moment, as far as in Japan, it's a significant problem. We're the one country that. The two countries that had the most significant increase, believe it or not, were both in this part of the world as far as percentage, Canada and the United States. But we had baby boomers both throughout Europe at the same period of time. We still have a positive growth rate as far as population is concerned, but many European countries, particularly Italy, they have a declining birth rate. Spain, a declining birth rate. We'll talk a little bit about Japan in a moment, but that's a great question because some of the countries that we depend on for our debt are going to be impacted by the same problem. Great question. As far as law enforcement for the elderly, I don't know if many of you remember reading the news, showing my age, I call it the News Chronicle. It's not the News Chronicle, the Ventura Star. The Ventura Star had a number of articles just recently talking about conservators and how conservators were taking advantage of some of their clients and so forth. That problem could become a bigger problem with the large number of baby boomers. One horrific story I remember reading was a young woman in Bakersfield. She was appointed conservator for her grandfather's estate. She was in such a hurry to gain the estate that she enlisted people to try and kill her grandfather. And those stories are happening not just in California, they're happening all over. So we're going to have an increased citizenry to be on the alert for this type of protection that's necessary for the baby boomers. These are the kinds of services that communities and organizations such as yourself are probably going to have to take a greater role in enlightening the community. Financial exploitation, it's just not limited to the service providers. It's family members and con artists and scam artists out there that are going to take advantage of this group of Americans. Global aging, Jim, this to answer your question, other areas of the world are aging at a faster rate and are going to be facing the same kind of implications of maturing society sooner than we will. It's happening, as I said, in Japan right now. Italy, birth rates are down, and the European Union is actually losing population today. This is an interesting fact because the aging Japanese. Japanese women and elder men on average live longer than any other population in the world, and female populations in particular. Incidence demand for age-related it's increased the demands for age-related entitlements in Japan. And it's increased the difficulty of the Japanese in buying the United States debt, resulting in a direct impact on the economic well-being of our citizens. If you take a look at the largest debt holders, the largest holders of U.S. debt by country over the last 10 years, Japan has been the largest debt holder. But Japan is the only country of the 20 largest debt holders for the United States that has experienced a decline in the amount of debt that they're holding. And one of the reasons is because they're taking care of their elderly. They're taking care of their own elderly problem or challenges. Now we got to talk about whether or not boomers are interested in working, and will they feel financially secure enough to work into the future? Are they going to forego retirement and continue to work? Will they work just because they're going to be living longer? I share with you some studies that have been done by a number of organizations, but one in particular has been done by Ken Deckwall of the Age Wave, and it's talking about the projections of how boomers might respond, or probably will respond, to this issue about whether or not they're going to be working over the next during into retirement. And we'll start by taking a look at life expectancy at birth. Over the last 100,000 years, people didn't live very long, and it's only until the beginning of the 19th and 20th century that we saw an increase in the life expectancy for people. Life expectancy at birth started to increase, as I said, significantly back in the latter part of the 19th century. And now somebody whose life expectancy at birth, somebody who was born around this period could expect to live to about 76.5 years. That would be the life expectancy at birth. Years, which means the years spent in retirement is going to be increasing for a number of people, especially as we increase longevity. Longevity rates are increased. Number of years spent in retirement, look back in the year 1900, only about 1.2 years in retirement after working before they passed away. Year 2000, they expect that there's going to be 20 to 25 years in retirement, longer period of time in retirement. The old linear life plan looks something like this. This is the one that we're all familiar with because this probably matches us. We spent the first 22 years of our lives in education, then we spent about 40 years working, and then the rest of our time was spent in leisure. This is the model most of us followed. Now we have to discount that one because now we're going to have a longevity bonus, which means we're going to live longer. We could expect to live to 85 years of age. So it would look like, traditionally your linear life plan would look like this: education, work, and a longer period of time in leisure. Probably not going to happen. That's the old model. Now people are looking at what's called a cyclical life plan, which takes into account that there's a longevity bonus, the fact that people are going to be living longer. There's going to be periods of education, work, back in education, taking some time off, work, education, taking some time off, work. For those of you who might think this is wild and this is probably not going to happen, I'm telling you it's happening right now. I'm seeing it with the younger students right now who are going to school, working for a couple of years, and taking something called a gap year or gap years, just taking some time off to see the world, taking some time off to travel, taking some time off to find themselves, then going back to school for a master's degree, an MBA, working for a few years, and then taking some time off. What's happening also it's forced upon some people. Some people work, they're laid off, have to spend some time finding a job. They want to find themselves, they'll go back to school. Some people who are victims of outsourcing are finding that they have these gaps that are existing. So this could be the typical or a cyclical life plan that will take place for many baby boomers. We work, you have education, go back to school, work, take some time off, and go back to school. Take a look at some of the local universities. Channel Island University has a program for mature adults. Some of them geared towards getting a degree, some for just enhanced learning. Which represents the best plan for those? These are the questions that were asked for baby boomers between the ages of 45 and 60 years of age. Which represents the ideal plan for you on how you're going to live the next stage of your life? And this is talking about when they get into retirement. 17% said they never work for pay again. 6% said they're going to work full-time. 13% had indicated they would work, they'd start their own business. 16% said they would work part-time. And 42% said they would cycle between work and leisure, going back to the last chart that we just saw, where they're going to have a cyclical lifespan. Will you work at the same kind of work, or will you work in a different line of work? 41% said the same line of work. 3% not sure. 56% said a different line of work. There's been a reversal in trend towards early retirement since the 1980s. Part of it's due to the strong economy that existed a few years back, the end of mandatory retirement ages, changes in Social Security that encourage people to work longer, and also technological advancements and improvements in the health and longevity of older Americans. So they feel healthier and they feel they can work. All right, now let's move into some of the issues that you may be concerned with as far as boomers and civic activities. Can we have some sort of a local effort that's going to mobilize the large number of boomers that are going to be retiring to address some of the problems that communities are facing? And if they respond in large numbers, will civic organizations be able to respond? Will they be able to handle an influx of boomers who may be interested in volunteering? And the other question is, will boomers participate? Compared to your generation, which is the greatest generation and the generation before you, the greatest generations, your generation were very active and participated in community affairs. You were very active in voting, fulfilling your civic responsibilities. The same cannot be true of the baby boomers. It cannot be said of the baby boomers. They've not participated at the same levels as the generations before them have. The first wave of baby boomers, they may, because they were inspired by people like John F. Kennedy and his call to be involved in civic life. But even that group is going to be less involved than their parents. But this is an important wave group, because if we can catch this group and we get them involved and have them have success, they'll become the role models for some of this generation, some of the later waves of baby boomers. There's an opportunity to help for baby boomers to create a legacy of profound importance for two reasons. Number one, the added number of years that they're going to be living, they give them a chance, and their life expectancy gives them the capacity to do that, to participate. Contrary to conventional wisdom, more people volunteer in midlife than they do in retirement. This midlife period is associated with having more rather than fewer obligations and commitments. Individuals who do volunteer during their early years of retirement do so with greater frequency than midlife volunteers. Close to 1/3 of boomers say they expect to participate in community service after retirement. The question is, how many of them actually will? But they need to have, in order to be a productive age and age properly, so to speak, they're going to have a careful planning. Erik Erikson's life cycle, the one we just discussed, develop a plan in their 50s to meet the challenge of unproductive aging, become more integral co-workers in community life, and they need to avoid that initial retirement holiday, followed by dangling and unproductive aging in many years duration. By that we're talking about the fact that we get them involved early, and you'll get somebody that's committed. We have to eliminate the current language we have as far as aging. Terms such as work, retirement, and volunteering, they're outdated. We need to get rid of the image of a frail senior and replace that with the image of an active senior. Your organizations are going to retool to attract and retain boomer volunteers. Many local agencies are not going to have the resources necessary to handle the professionally managed volunteers. The biggest burden is going to be on national nonprofit organizations and public health and social services, youth development, aging, and education. They're the ones that can take a lead, because the baby boomers will have an awful lot to offer, as we'll see in a second, offer these particular groups. Wide range of opportunities were going to be needed. Volunteer organizations have a broad set of options, be very flexible in how you approach the boomers. Different ways at different times that they can enter into volunteer kind of activities. Towns and cities should consider organizing large-scale volunteer-based efforts that reach out to various sectors of the community. Leaders, if you can get the first wave of baby boomers involved in activities dealing with the young, and they'll experience some success, that'll be a wonderful role model for the next generation of boomers. Why select the young as a group for the boomers to become involved in? Because the boomers can relate to a skipped generation. Grandparents get along better with their grandchildren than you do with their own children. The same thing with boomers. Boomers will relate to younger people, and younger people will relate to boomers. So if in communities, one of the first steps they should get involved in is trying to have some sort of a service activity that's going to be related to dealing with children and youth in the community. Mentoring programs, tutoring programs, coaching programs, all those kinds of activities. Engage and have initial success in those kinds of activities, and that'll be a wonderful role model for the next baby boomers coming up. The new trends: the brain volunteer replaces the brawn volunteer. Baby boomers feel that they have something to offer as far as intellectual capacity, and they don't want to do the grunt work. They feel that they're more strategic and more creative. The cause-driven volunteer replaces a time-driven volunteer. Time-driven volunteers: I got this time available, I'll give it to you. Cause-driven volunteers: I'm concerned about the youth, I'm concerned about cancer, I'm concerned about aging, I'll work on those particular areas. But also remember, the new volunteer is going to be selfish, because baby boomers were part of the me generation. They're going to say, what's in it for me? They're going to demand different tasks and a variety of tasks. They're looking for more responsibility, creative, and the need for their skills. They don't want to be micromanaged. They don't want to be overmanaged. How do you reward them? The same way you rewarded your employees when you were working. Recognition. You give them recognition, you give them responsibility, you give them accountability. You make them feel that they're accomplishing something. You put that role model up, you put that kind of a model up as far as how you treat volunteers, and you're bound to have success. Why do they view themselves as an unpaid professional? Because what do they look for in retirement? What do they look for when they volunteer? They look for that recognition. Because in my job there wasn't much of a challenge, not enough achievement, not enough responsibility. There's no mission. There's only expediency. If I can get that in my volunteer effort, you're going to have a volunteer for life. When you're recruiting volunteers, create volunteer projects that are enjoyable, satisfying, and new volunteer. Create a word of mouth, but also recognize that this group of people are very technologically savvy, and don't forget to use the internet. Partner with other local volunteer bureaus. Always make access easy and clear as far as volunteers are concerned. The don't recruit for lifetime. Don't only recruit lifetime individuals instead of recruiting for short-term projects. Don't assume that no means never. Be people-driven instead of position-driven. Don't misname the position. If you're going to have a position, give it an honest job preview so people know what they're getting into. Two factors largely influencing the likelihood of volunteering in retirement are going to be health and financial well-being. We know as far as health is concerned that the baby boomers are very health conscious, so their health issues have been taken care of. Financial well-being is the only issue that remains a large question mark. Make tasks flexible with a clear beginning and a clear end. Make projects challenging, requiring more skills. Offer tasks that have the potential to be rewarding. Again, recognizing what motivates people. I don't care if they're baby boomers, Generation X, next generation, the greatest generation, no matter what. People like to be rewarded by recognition. Be persistent Ask why or why not, find out what drives them, and never take no for an answer. Always make access easy. And the most important thing that most volunteer organizations fail to do is once somebody makes a contact and expresses an interest, follow up, follow up, follow up. Provide in-depth training prior to task and during the task, and provide supervision, adequate supervision, but not overwhelming supervision. Don't micromanage them. The new mentality is many companies are looking to provide service to the volunteer to nonprofit organizations in the community by making their employees available for volunteer kinds of efforts. The other thing that communities need to look at is family volunteering, getting boomers involved with their children, their parents, and other family members, where volunteering as a unit becomes a way of volunteering. All you have to do is take a look at some of the fundraising activities with some of the marches, some of the marathons where families are involved in, and you can see how family volunteering is becoming a very popular way of attracting volunteers. Single volunteering, and when I saw this information the students developed, I said this has got to be way out in left field. But when you think about the number of single boomers, single volunteering is a way of developing romantic relationships and friendships. Don't discount that opportunity, and perhaps look for a way of encouraging it. Think about the volunteer as a customer. What makes them tick? Why did they come? What do they want to get for this experience? What can we get them coming back? And when they leave, find out while they're leaving. Now we want to talk a little bit about the Hispanic situation in Ventura County, and also as far as Hispanic volunteers are concerned. This group needs some specific targeting. I'm not too sure how much of a problem it is an opportunity is in Thousand Oaks, because I haven't seen the census information for this number of Hispanics in Thousand Oaks. But I do know for the county, Ventura County, it represents about a third. Getting the Hispanic community volunteer represents a unique challenge, because the senior citizens remain very close-knit with their family. They don't like to move out into areas that are foreign to them. Many, because of the legalization issues, are afraid to venture out. They'd rather keep a low profile. And the language problem presents a unique challenge as far as volunteers in the Hispanic community is concerned. But this is the fastest growing ethnic community. We saw that in 65, the national age group in 2003 increased by 6%. It's going to go to 11% and eventually to 18%. The problems that we get in either providing them services or getting them involved is language, cultural, and the legal documentation situation. As far as Ventura County demographics are concerned, here's the demographics of the population of 65 and older in Ventura County. The total population in the last census of age 45 to 64, again, these are the baby boomers, is 163,000, compared to the 65 and over of 76,000 today. Of that, the Hispanic population is 251,000. We can address the issue of the Hispanic population by increasing the number of bilingual volunteers who can reach out to the community, remembering the fact that when we do publicize information that could have appealed to the Hispanic community, take into consideration the language problems. Let's take a look at the retirees and how they've been classified as far as how they're approaching retirement. 27% of the retirees are going to be considered ageless explorers. They seek involvement, personal growth, work and reinvention, and they have a very high anticipation of volunteering. So the possibility of you getting boomers to volunteer, this group represents your greatest opportunity. It's projected about 27% of those will have a high anticipation of volunteering. They're comfortably content, 19%. They seek freedom from work and social responsibilities. They have no work plans and are less likely to volunteer. The live for the days are financially unprepared, middle income, less likely to volunteer, and these most closely match the boomer image. And then the sick and tired, they've given up and have little interest in anything and have a very dismal outlook. The most important thing, I think, for any of us to remember is that it would be a huge mistake to ignore the talents of seniors of any generation. John Glenn returned to space at age 77. Maya Angelou, one of the world's most renowned poets, still writing, still prolific at age 78. Warren Buffett at 85, still making money. Sophia Loren, she lives in our community part of the time, and at 71, I still think she's a beautiful woman. Joe Paterno, still coaching at Penn State and winning at Penn State at age 79. Nelson Mandela won the Nobel Peace Prize at age 75. Golda Meir, Prime Minister of Israel from ages 70 to 76. Mahatma Gandhi completed successful negotiation for India's independence at age 72. Noah Webster published the American Dictionary of English at age 70. Galileo, most famous works were published when he was age 75. What we need is a new vision with all obstacles removed as far as how we treat the senior citizens of this country. We have to eliminate age discrimination. We have to eliminate age discrimination at work, and we have to eliminate age discrimination in society. We have to remove any disincentives for continued work. Remove disincentives as far as loss of Social Security income for the money that you may earn while you're working. We have to maybe encourage mentoring kind of assignments and flex retirement, sabbaticals, other innovations, giving people who want to work time to work part-time schedule, flex time schedule, or maybe a few months out of each year. Support retraining and career reinventions, especially for those people who are laid off, especially those people whose jobs are outsourced, especially those who are among the senior citizens whose jobs are outsourced. Don't write them off. Provide incentives for retraining them. Support assistive technologies in the workplace. Just because somebody has a problem reading doesn't mean we can't address that particular problem. It may not be a qualified disability as far as the American Disabilities Act, but with minor workforce modifications, we could accommodate those particular problems that might exist for some of our seniors who want to work, but because of a minor disability, it may be causing a problem for them. Encourage volunteer contributions. This group has an awful lot to offer, particularly with the young of the country. Effectively manage age diversity. Take advantage of the fact that the different ages have different experiences. We can learn from each other. I've been teaching now for 9 years, and every class I teach, I learn something from the students I teach. They tell me something. They teach me something. I learn. Learning is a continuous process. Giving is a continuous process also. Create a society-wide state of aging readiness, having more people like yourself who are concerned about this issue and are working on this issue. And the most important thing we can have is prepared for the coming age wave. It's coming. We know it's going to be there, and we know that 79 million Americans are going to be moving into senior citizen status. Thank you. I enjoyed the opportunity, and I congratulate you again for being concerned about this very important issue. Thank you.
Thank you for a very interesting. I have a question, though. Yeah. I have heard that from some sources, I guess, I don't recall which, about the fact that all the undocumented workers contribute to Social Security and other forms of taxation, even though they are not going to. Many of them will collect from them, but they will support some of the deficits that will be there in the future years.
Yes. There's a wonderful report that's been prepared by Dr. Andrew Yunkert, one of my colleagues at Pepperdine University, talking about the contribution, the cost of illegal immigrants in this country. There is a cost. Estimates that have ranged up to $25 billion to $75 billion to $100 billion a year are wrong, according to his studies, and a study of a number of responsible economists. He puts the cost closer to $5 billion a year. And because of the contributions that you're talking about, the contributions to Social Security that may not be collected, a number of Social Security numbers that are issued are false numbers, and nobody's ever going to collect on them. So true, you're true. That's true. Those contributions are going to go into the general Social Security fund and will help. The other thing you're talking about is the contributions they make as far as taxation is concerned, even though they may not pay any state income tax or state income tax or federal income tax, may not, I say, depending on their employer. They also spend 8.5% of their income on disposable income on issues that are going to be taxed or subject to sales tax. So they pay some sort of a tax. It may not be a wage tax, and it may not be an income tax, but through Social Security taxes and sales taxes, they do contribute.
Any more questions?
Yeah, I've got a few. Pardon me. But just going along with the immigration thing as a generality, it seems like to me that they're going to be a necessary part of the labor force versus labor demand problem that we see. I don't know how, particularly in California, we would get along without them. That's just a comment, not a question. I am curious as to, I mean, some of the economic impact of the influx of boomers is so obviously staggering. We deal with the problems of how to fund our current needs, and we find that to be somewhat difficult. Most of the agencies are always scrambling for money. Issues such as affordable housing and transportation are all money-driven as we sit right now. Obviously, with these incoming boomers, that's going to be stretched way beyond our imagination at this point. Are feasibility studies happening at the state or national level? The only thing I can even imagine is some incredibly high tax base for those left in the workforce. But is studies like that happening as far as you know, Mike?
Well, at the White House conference this past December, that issue did come up. And what happened in Washington was there was an agreement that they would reach agreement on proposing that somebody study it. And we know what that's going to lead to. That's going to be studied.
That settles that.
That settles that. That's exactly right, Jim. But one of the interesting things and encouraging things is that where most of the action is taking place in this particular issue is at the lower, when I say lower level, I mean the local level. There are a number of cities out there that are behaving much like the city of Thousand Oaks is behaving in anticipating this problem. In California, we have Fremont, California, Newark, California. Both of those cities have efforts underway to take a look at the impact of baby boomers on their particular community, where those funds are going to come from, how they're going to generate the funds, what might be available from the federal government, state government, and what's going to have to be supplied as far as local government is concerned. Des Moines, Iowa is another city that's done a tremendous job in examining the issues of the baby boomers and how they're going to respond to the baby boomer issues. Surprisingly, just one final point, the cities that have done the least are cities in Florida that has the largest population of seniors in the country.
But it still seems to me that the tax base per se is, I mean, it's a national issue. There's just going to be fewer and fewer people supporting the larger and larger numbers. That tax base is going to have to be incredibly, I mean, it's going to have the face of socialized society. I mean, people are going to be spending considerably more of they're going to be getting a lot less in their paycheck.
Yes. As
they age to take care of the incoming boomers. It seems like to me that's an incredibly national issue.
Oh, very much so.
And the ways to fund that seem to be, I mean, I'm hoping someone's looking at that.
Well, it's
something other than gay marriage.
Take a look at healthcare, the healthcare issue, and the lack of progress as far as healthcare issues are concerned. And look at the increase in cost in healthcare. Look at the number of boomers that are going to be needing healthcare. Look at the population that's going to be driving and eating off that system, and what's been set aside. They haven't set anything aside. They've been looking upon their employer as far as providing the health insurance. But take a look what's happening at General Motors. General Motors has more. They pay for more retirees and dependent retirees medical insurance than they do for active employees. How long can that continue?
Well, there was an article about a month or so ago in the paper about companies that are actually suing their retired employees to make them pay more of their health costs, and winning in court in many instances.
Yes.
Because they simply can't afford it.
They can't afford it.
And rather than even go back and try to reason with them, they're just taking them to court.
Yes. especially those companies that have had labor agreements that mandated the kind of benefits that were going to be provided in retirement. They are going back to court, and they are winning those cases.
I have a different thought. Everything is predicated on the fact that the economy will stay about where it is in the future. What happens if there's a depression?
And then it's a troubled time to be old. An interesting thing, take a look at the Los Angeles Times this morning in the business section. I don't know how many of you saw it. Study, grim retirement awaits many. And this study is just based on a return on investment, an economy of today's numbers. But Harry, if a situation takes place where we have a depression, it's going to be tragic, because we have not done the planning to take care of the needs of the senior citizens in this country. And the seniors themselves, or the baby boomers themselves, have not done their fair share also. They're counting on entitlement, somebody else taking care of them. Our generation, your generation, my generation, I consider myself being born on the cusp of the Depression. I was born in 1941. But I was raised in a family that valued saving. And you didn't make an expenditure unless you had the money. You didn't go into debt. Debt is anathema to me today. I have a mortgage, but that's about the only debt that I have. I started saving for my retirement when I was 26 years of age. Nobody does that anymore. They think that their retirement is going to be provided by their 401k, their house, or Social Security. And that's only going to take, their pensions and Social Security are only going to take care of about 40% of their needs. Especially if you have inflation. That's cancer to senior citizens, having inflation. Those who are on a fixed income. You need to have some sort of an investment that's going to protect you against inflation.
I think we could continue this for the rest of the day if we were allowed to. But I think that we've pretty well covered the subject, and we thank you very much for coming and making this presentation. It was very interesting.
Thank you for having me.
Very well done.
Thank you.
And getting back to our regular meeting, committee assignments. We'll start first with health care. And Judy, do you want to start?
Yes, thank you. That was a wonderful presentation. I was just going to tell a story today that has to do with healthcare and going into the summer season, thinking that maybe everyone would take a little bit of guidance from it. A couple of weeks ago, the Council on Aging helped the city do a survey on the satisfaction with the nutritional program. So we spent a couple of days having lunch with the people that use the nutrition program at Goebel Center, chatting with them and finding out just a little bit about them. And I met the most interesting lady, and she just falls right in with health care. Her name is Alice. She was dressed in a pretty light pink sweater and just as bright and bubbly as she could be, and I sat down and talked to her for a while. Turns out that she's a retired nurse. I guess that was why I was drawn to her. She's also 97, lived in this area the entire time of her life, all 97 years. Her family, when she was young, was affiliated with the sugar refinery in the Oxnard area. I wasn't aware that there had ever been a sugar refinery in this area. Anyway, she lives with her granddaughter, and she walks daily to the little park and the little bridge right behind Goebel Center, and feeds the birds and the ducks, and has lunch, and takes everybody's bread that they all save for, and in the afternoon she goes back out again. So we started talking, and I was telling her that I had recently retired as a nurse also, and she said, I hardly even remember anything about nursing. And I said, well, you remember enough to know that exercise is very important every day. And she said, yes, I do. I guess that is part of nursing. We did exercise and take good care of ourselves that way. But think about that. Every day except when it rains. And in this area, of course, we don't have that much rain. But anyway, I asked her about her medications, and she said, I don't really know that much about medications. She said, I wasn't raised to take medications. My mother didn't believe in them. She said, I don't take any medications, and I don't have any health problems, and the only thing I take is vitamins. And I just thought I would just like to pass on this lady. There are so many interesting people around in the world, and I was so fortunate to meet her both those 2 days. The second day she had about 9 slices of bread, and the first day she had about 5 slices. So anyway, she was on her way out to feed the birds and the duck. But just think about that. Without anybody talking to her about it or trying to guide her or tell her what to do, she does go to the doctor when she needs to, takes no medications, takes vitamins, and walks and exercises every day. The weather's getting really nice now, and like I've said before, find a friend, find a neighbor, and go out for a walk. Make sure you do it during the daylight hours, however, and see if you can use the summer to kind of improve your health and just kind of renew your life a little bit by getting reacquainted with people and getting some exercise. So I just thought that was kind of a good way to end our season for the year. And I hope everybody stays safe and happy and healthy through the summer, and we'll look forward to seeing everyone back in September. Tony?
It's a beautiful story, and interesting enough, I was going to kind of talk a little bit more about exercise and the importance of that and all that, but then interesting enough, I just got busy with my week and didn't get into that. But I did gather some information to share with everyone that really fits in with Professor Mullen's presentation, and that is I wanted to share with you a little humor today before we leave, because we won't be here for a couple of months, and I hope to see you all in September again. But Myra Angelo, who is 78 years old, like Professor Mellon mentioned, she's quite a poet, and I have some interesting little things that came off my email website, and I'd like to share a few things with you and leave you with some of her thoughts. She says that what she's learned, she said, in her 78 years, I've learned that no matter what happens or how bad it seems today, life goes on and it will be better tomorrow. I've learned that you can tell a lot about a person by the way he or she handles these 3 things in life: a rainy day, lost luggage, and tangled Christmas ornaments. I've learned that regardless of your relationship with your parents, you'll miss them when they're gone from your life. I've learned that making a living is not the same as making a life. I've learned that life sometimes gives you a second chance. And I've learned that you shouldn't go through life with a catcher's mitt on both hands. You need to be able to throw some things back. And I learned that whatever I decide something with an open heart, I usually make the right decision. And I've learned that even when I have pains, I don't have to be one. I also learned that every day you should reach out and touch someone. People love a hug or just a friendly pat on the back. I learned that I still have a lot to learn. And so I'd like to leave you with a little thought that although we all know that exercise and eating right and all these wonderful things are important, but one of the biggest and wonderful and most important things to put in your life is humor. The medication with no side effects. Did you know that laughter exercises the cardiovascular system? It releases endorphins into your upper parts. It stimulates particularly all large internal organs and improves your posture and your appearance, relaxes muscles and drains tensions, and is a great aerobic exercise. 20 seconds of groveling equals 3 minutes of a rowing machine. And like the famous Albert Schweitzer said, every man carries his own doctor inside him. So have a wonderful summer, and hope to see you again in September, healthy and well.
Thank you, Tony. It was very, very good. I guess one of the exercises I don't have to quit doing is jumping to conclusions. Next up is public housing and information outreach, and we have no report for that today, so We'll move on to Senior Services Directory, and since Mel isn't here, I'll call on Martin to give the report. Martin?
Well, the Senior Services Directory for 2006 went into publication last month, and copies are available at the City Hall Customer Service Desk, at the Thousand Oaks and Newbury Park Libraries, at the Global Senior Adult Center. And for more information, you can call 449-2743. I believe we're going to be publishing more copies in the, and there should be, you can call that number and ask for a copy to be sent to you, or you can pick one up at one of these locations I just mentioned. Okay?
Thank you, Martin. And now we'll move on to the Senior of the Year Awards. I have to commend the chair of that committee, Shirley Kozlowski, for a yeoman job of putting on a great show and award performance night. Shirley?
Thank you, Harry. It was a great event. I hope you were there to enjoy it. The whole council helped make it a success, too. It wasn't just on me. Chris and Francine were a great help, and we had fresh flowers on the table and even real tablecloths. Thanks to Francine, the entertainment was lively and nice to listen to. We even had a pianist entertain us while we walked in. Thank you again to Sarah. The desserts were tasty and plenty of them to satisfy the good crowd that we had. We had 5 nominees for the Senior of the Year Award for 2005. 2 of them were sick, but the others were there. Mayor Gillette presented the plaque to Richard Doring, who as a winning candidate. But let me tell you, it was hard to pick a winner. All we can say is they were all winners and deserve all the applause they got and then some. Thank you again, Levon, Laughlin, John Leslie, Boho, Sahami, and Gordon Wolf Graham, and congratulations to all of you. And thanks again to the council for all your help, especially to Chris and to Francine. Now, one thing I'm going to add here is if you have any suggestions that you think will help us next year make a better Senior of the Year event, let me know, okay? You'll probably see me at the Global Center or walking around. Just stop me and let me know what's happening and what you would suggest. I had one suggestion that was to have it in the afternoon, but we're going to have to consider that. The council will decide on what to do on that. But if you, like I say, any suggestions, please let me know. Thank you.
Thank you, Shirley. The next is Transportation, and Jim Caniglio, who is our chair of the Transportation Committee, can't be here today because he recently underwent a surgical procedure to repair an aneurysm in his aorta. So on behalf of Jim, I'd like to say that he has put in an awful lot of work in his committee during the past year, but he will not be reapplying for another term. He has decided to take a different path, and he has taken on an effort which he says will consume most of his time and leave no room for council. And we wish him success, and we're sorry to see him go. In the same vein, George Horn will not be reapplying for another term. He, too, is leaving the council for other efforts. The entire commission wishes them both success in their endeavors, and I hope that they provide satisfaction for jobs well done. And now moving on to legislation. George?
I don't have any pertinent legislation to report on that would affect seniors right now, but I do have here a copy of a publication called Seniors and the Law. Looks like this for those that can't see the details of it. But it's funded by the Foundation of the State Bar of California. It has a lot of good information in it pertaining to legal matters that affect seniors. And you can get copies of it. Here's a website, seniors at calbar, calbar.ca.gov. And you can order copies of this publication. It is excellent. It's got a number of pages. It addresses a lot of issues that talk about legal rights for seniors. It's specifically directed at seniors, so for those of you that are interested, you might want to get a copy of it. Thank you.
Thank you, George. Any comments? Moving on to fraud. And Martin, do you have anything for us today?
Thank you, Harry. Well, the good news is we're getting smarter about identity theft. The FTC reported that cases of identity theft tripled from 2004 through from 2001 to 2004. But last year's increase was just 3%. But that doesn't mean we should let our guard down. As we get smarter, so do the criminals. They find new ways to scam us by latching on to legitimate offers. For example, we are constantly bombarded with offers to refinance our mortgages, and most are legitimate. But watch out for someone who asks for private information. It kind of goes like this. Hello, I'm calling from your mortgage company, and I see from our records that you may qualify for a lower loan rate. If you show interest, they go on and say, well, based on your excellent credit history, I think we can save you hundreds of dollars a month with our much more attractive rate. And if you show interest by asking what that rate is, they say, well, before I can answer, I just need to verify some information, your social security number and your bank account numbers, for example, and just to make sure that they match our records and that you really qualify for this new mortgage rate. Well, you can laugh before you hang up. But if you do give out that information, be sure to enter your bank account before they do, and place a fraud alert on one of the credit bureaus. Placing an alert on any one of the 3 credit bureaus will automatically place it on the other 2. And it's a good idea to get acquainted with these credit bureaus, and a good place to start is by asking one of them for your free credit report. You are entitled by law to 1 free credit report every year. And the easiest way is by going to www.annualcreditreport.com or by calling them. I don't know if you could see this. Probably not. Maybe. Equifax, their number is 800-525-6285. Experian is 888-397-3742. And TransUnion is 800-680-7289. You can get 1 free credit report from each one of them each year, so you can kind of spread them out and end up getting 1 credit report every 4 months. And you ought to do it at least once a year, because that way you'll find out if there are any unauthorized credit cards out there with your name on them that you know nothing about. Thanks, Harry.
Can I add one little thing? I was a victim of fraud today. I woke up my husband's out of town. I woke up at 6:15 this morning to the telephone and a recording, which I would, under normal circumstances, if I weren't half asleep, immediately hang up on. I always do with recordings. But this one was the fraud division of Visa, with instructions to do what I had to do what they said. But I listened through the whole thing, and they said that our credit card they thought had been used incorrectly by someone other than the 2 of us. And so then to push whatever buttons. Anyway, I did not hang up on a recording, which was a switch, and it was very beneficial. Then the next thing, I was very happy to know that there is someone out there watching out for things like that. This is the first time it's happened to us. Obviously, the credit card is no longer in effect, which is an inconvenience. But still, it was a music purchase of some kind in Russia, and she said that it was so uncharacteristic for our Visa usage that they wanted to verify that someone had actually made that purchase, which of course they hadn't, and they did deny it at the time. But just to be aware that when you do, once in a while, it doesn't hurt to listen to a recording just to see what the gist of the topic is, and certainly know that, and hopefully everybody's credit card is paying as much attention to it as ours. So I did feel like a victim, but I also felt like it was handled properly. So everyone, just be alert to your credit cards. And we had not lost a credit card or had any reason to think that there was anything going on.
Thank you, Judy and Martin. That concludes our committee assignments. Now we move on to liaison reports, and back to Judy.
Jim, do you have a report for us on the
Actually, I have nothing new
meeting?
from the VCAAA.
Okay. Shirley, the RSVP.
Yes, thank you. This is the last time until September that I will tell you about RSVP. So don't get lazy and complacent and say, I don't know what to do. First of all, the RSVP office is open all summer, and you can find out what you can do to volunteer and also what you're best suited for. From Cindy, she'll be glad to answer any questions that you have. Her number is 805-381-2471. Also, you can check the star. This morning I got the star, and it said volunteer opportunities, and there was about 97 of them on here. I'm not going to read all 97 to you, but anyhow, you can find out for yourself what you're best suited for. They've got hospices, and they've got humane societies, they've got hospitals, anything that you're, and mentoring and everything like that. So just look at it and do something. Just don't sit around and do nothing. So that's the last time I'll bug you about volunteering. Now, this is something I don't want you to forget either, the Hugs from Home program. It goes on all year long. It goes on all year long, so don't forget about our servicemen fighting overseas. My friend Barbara sent me a card about hugs when I was recuperating from surgery, and I would like to read it to you if you don't mind. Hugs can tell you it's okay to be yourself. Hugs can tease you out of your too serious moments. Hugs can show someone's listening even when you're not making any sense. Hugs can comfort your needs and give you hope that things will be better someday soon. Hugs can tell you that there's someone you can count on in this crazy world. And that's about all. And see you next summer.
Thank you. Along the lines of Hugs from Home, they sent my grandson in Iraq a box with the cooling ties and some other things, and he got it last Thursday, and he said it was incredible. There were all these cooling ties for him and his buddies. They ride patrol in a Humvee, and some other things too, Crystal Light to sweeten the water and all kinds of things. So they do so many wonderful things, but especially now with the temperature pushing 130 over there, those things are extremely appreciated.
Well, if you know of anybody who's in the service that you'd like to send a package to, just get in touch with the RSVP, give them their number of the, their address and things, and they will send them a package. And also, if you want to know what to send them, call their office, and they'll tell you too. Thank you.
Oh, Andrea with the Global Senior Center report.
End up seeing you all back in September. However, it was very interesting to listening to Mr. Mullen's baby boomer stuff, and I've seen it before. It's always wonderful, and that's exactly the thing we try to get at the Global Senior Adult Center. So I thought I'd do one more plug. That's why the word adult is in there. You don't have to be the 85 plus to walk in there. A lot of programs are for 50 and up, but a lot of programs are also just for adults, anybody 18 and up. So please do walk in. It happened all last week. People coming in that are, my age to 55, 60, looking for something for their mom and dad, or they're moving them out here. And I'm like, well, so what do you like to do? Why haven't I seen you in here? So it's always a learning curve and experience. But along those same lines, we have decided that we are doing a lot of intergenerational programming this summer. So we're hoping to get the parents, the grandparents, aunts or uncles, whoever, the extended families, and the kids to get out and enjoy things and know that the Global Senior Adult Center does other things in the community besides also just coming to the center. So I'm going to give you some of those first because they're kind of fun. We've got a flower hike that's coming up. That'll be June 23rd. And that's for all adults and children over age 5. And it's free, and it'll be led by our district naturalist, Tom Maxwell. And we just need to have the reservations for that, so I'll give you the number at the end. And that'll be a creek trail, and it's slow walk, so it should be fun, and get to see all the different flowers and whatnot that are blooming before they go away, since the rain, it looks like it's ending already. We have an animal contest. This is always so fun because people can bring in you can bring in your pets. I hope you guys show up with your pets. Anybody from the community can come with their pets. Again, it's that reservation thing, but it's really fun because we do things, categories like the biggest, the smallest, the best tail wagger, most unique, owner and pet lookalike, and best of show. So there's a whole bunch of fun categories. So it really makes it a fun day for everybody to come and bring their pets and do that. Bird watching. Going to do some bird watching, real simple. Again, it'll be led by Tom Maxwell, and it'll be right behind the Global Senior Adult Center, Canal Creek Park North, and that'll be in July on the 17th. And again, it's all ages, and as far as kids go, it's a park, pretty darn safe. No trails. Get to sit by the creek and walk around the park and check out the different birds. And everybody loves ice cream, right? Ice cream social in July. Again, that's for everybody, and it'll be in the late afternoon, so between people's vacations and whatnot or work, 4 to 5 p.m. That one's really cheap. It's only $1 per person, so I think everybody can. Ice cream social, July 14th. It's on a Friday, so it's at the end of the week. It'll be perfect. It'll be hot. It's ice cream social. And our staff person Patrick is back out doing the fishing trip. We had done one just about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and we're doing another deep sea fishing trip, and that'll be July 20th, and that's at 6:30 a.m. That's out and about. So now we've done this one's for adults, just 18 plus. So depending on your age will depend on your fee, and you just register at the Global Center, and then of course your tackle and license and all that stuff is extra unless you already have it. And then in August, right before school gets started, we are going to do a morning hike, and that's for adults and kids as long as they're over 2, so they can walk. And that'll be from 9 to 11, and that'll be fun. It's free. And last but not least, the last part of August is Reptile Family. That'll be at the Global Senior Adult Center. We've got a group that brings in all different types of reptiles and encourages learning about the reptiles and their habitats, and again, that's free for all ages, and that's from 4 to 5:30 on a Wednesday. So these are all things to be able to get some people in and get some intergenerational in there and let people know that you don't have to be old to come have fun with us. And another touch I want to touch on from community member Tony Cam. She's talking about humor and laughing. New class at the center starting tomorrow, the art of humor. And so they're going to be looking at the history of humor and as far as comedians and books and plays and movies and why certain types of humor tickle your funny bone, all that kind of stuff. So it should be a really fun class. So I hope people do join in with that. And that'll be on Thursdays from 2:15 to 3:45 on the Thursday. So it's going to be a brand new class. So I hope people come out first so we get to keep it. We do have a life writing workshop coming up. That's also tomorrow on the 8th. It's really good. Louise Cabral, if anybody knows who she is, she's been in the community, and she's done a lot of writing, a lot of poetry, does a lot of different things. So she's going to be teaching a class shortly, which will be a contract class. But she's going to do a workshop that's free. So you can come in and learn about the class before you decide if you want to register for it or not. Or if it's something that you want to do, or at least walk away with some knowledge of what you might want to do on your own. So that'll be tomorrow from 2 to 3. More exercise. This is fun. It's free. It's water exercise and swimming. We do it 4 days out of the week. So it'll start on the 19th, so just a couple weeks from now, on June 19th through August 24th. Mondays and Wednesdays will be at Thousand Oaks High School Pool. And Tuesdays and Thursdays will be at Newbury Park High School Pool, and that's from 12:35 to 1:25, and it's free. And Global Senior staff participates, and we get out there with you and lead through exercises. So or people can lap swim as well, and it's just for seniors because that's the downtime for the pools for lunch and break for the lifeguards. So it's just us in there, but then they do get us out quick to get back going at 1:30. So. And then our billiards players are doing their chicken and barbecue on Saturday, June 24th from 3:30 to 5. It's fun. They do all the work and all the preparations. You can come have dinner. It's only $6. It helps supports the billiards players in raising money for different things they need in the pool room, recovering the tables and whatnot. So, and they always like to do it on a Friday or a Saturday after bingo, because we can get a lot of those people to go in there, and we get and families can come. So you can bring your kids, you can bring your grandkids, whatnot. So it's a good thing. Buy your tickets at Global Senior Center. And last but not least, on July 4th, the whole Canal Recreation Park District does a phenomenal job of all different activities throughout all of Canal Valley. So there's like pancake breakfasts, oh gosh, there's tug of war stuff. We do 2 different home run derbies. There's one through the sports section, and we do one for the seniors, and that's at Orchard Park. And that'll be at 9 a.m. with an 8:30 registration sign-in time. And it's open to men and women. Now, this one you do have to be 50 plus for, though. Otherwise, you can sign up with the sports side. And there's age categories and all sorts of good stuff. So it's a fun day. And that is the end of all the good stuff that is coming up in June and what to look for in June, July, and August as far as special programs. Is there any questions from anybody? No? Okay. Well, I hope I didn't talk too fast. And everybody have a good summer. And the number to the Global Senior Center for anybody who wants information is 805-381-2744.
Thank you. We're so lucky to have you and such an active adult senior center. Thank you very much, and have a great summer.
Thank you. I hope to see some of you in there.
Okay. Shirley, do you have tag-ins from the Senior Festival? I know it's already been, but it was since our last meeting.
Yes, I can review it just a little bit. I wasn't there because we had to go to Berkeley. My grandson graduated with a master's in engineering. We thought that took a little priority. But from what I hear, the Senior Festival was great. They had a lot of booths so we can get information. They had guest speakers, hobbies, and craft instructors, Mary Kay, pet adoptions, and a lot of entertainment, a mariachi group, Dr. Discovery, canal cloggers, and a good stir-fry lunch. Wish you could have. I hope you were there. I wish I could have been there. Hope you enjoyed it all. Thank you.
Thank you. Harry?
Thank you, Judy. Now we come to old business. Does the commission have any old business before it? Okay. How about any new business? Commissioner comments? I'll start. When the Council on Aging resumes in September, it will be continuing the new format of broadcast featuring programs geared to seniors and their needs. We will strive to provide speakers with expertise in the subject to be discussed either singly or through panels. We are constantly looking for ways to reach out to the senior population of the Canal Valley so we may truly represent their needs to the city of Thousand Oaks. To do this, we need your help. Come to our meetings. They are always open to the public. Come to our broadcast here at City Hall in the boardroom, or watch them on TOTV Channel 10. Tell us what we're doing right. Tell us what we're doing wrong. Tell us what we're not doing. Tell us what you think we ought to do. No matter your opinion, please write to us. To paraphrase General MacArthur, come September, we'll be back. Hope to see you all. Hope you have a great summer. And I guess the meeting is adjourned.